This episode is brought to you by PCL. PCL is a group of independent construction companies that operates throughout Canada, the United States, the Caribbean, and Australia. As one of the largest contracting organizations in North America, PCL completes more than $11 billion in work annually, building projects that shape communities. The company's 100% employee ownership model fuels a culture of commitment for clients in the buildings, civil infrastructure, heavy industrial, and solar markets. PCL's teams are proud to build with and learn from Indigenous communities in a number of places in this land. Learn more and watch PCL build at PCL.com.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Roots and Hoots, a podcast project produced by the Legacy of Hope Foundation. Since 2020, we have been gathering, laughing, learning hard truths, and sharing in community conversations with Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island. Each episode, we learn something new, and we're excited to be sharing this journey with you. Roots and Hoots is about connecting with and celebrating Indigenous people's contributions to their fields of study, work, and cultures. We also speak with allies who share how they are furthering the work of reconciliation in Canada. To learn more about the Legacy of Hope Foundation and the work that we do, please visit legacyofhope.ca.
In this episode, host Gordon sits down with Siksika artist Adrian Stimson for a lively and wide-ranging conversation about Adrian's life and work. They explore one of his many acts of reclamation, establishing his artist studio on the grounds of the former Old Sun residential school garden, as well as his role as host of the recent 6-part CBC podcast series Forged, which uncovers the true story behind the Norval Morrisseau art fraud. Please enjoy this special episode of Roots and Hoots.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Roots and Hoots podcast. I'm your host, Gordon Spence, and today my guest is Adrian Stimson. Hello, Adrian. How are you today?
Okay, Gordon. I'm doing great today. Nice to meet you virtually.
Yes. Maybe just talk a little bit about your background, where you're from, and your family, your First Nation.
You bet. Well, Okinoksukwa, Nastudidanako Apoyiskumapi. In my language, which is Blackfoot. My Blackfoot name, given to me by my grandmother, is Little Brown Boy. I still have that name. I haven't been given an adult name yet, so I think I'll hold on that one as long as I can. But Nitutu Siksika. I'm from the Siksika Nation in southern Alberta, part of the Blackfoot Confederacy. Where I started, I was born, interestingly enough, in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. That's where my dad met my mom. And sort of my history of residential school started there, which is an interesting one. I consider myself Blackfoot, even though I have Irish ancestry as well. But my experience has been First Nations and with my people. The Blackfoot. And I'm currently, my studio, where I make art and live, is the actual former Old Sun residential school garden here on the Siksika Nation. So,
yeah. So there was a residential school in Siksika at one time?
Oh, there were two of them.
Really?
The reserve was split in half, and the east went to the Catholics and the west went to the Anglicans. And Old Sun, which is my great-great-great-grandfather, the school was named after him, Old Sun Indian Residential School here in the west end of our reserve.
Yeah. Now, Siksika is a Blackfoot community, which is based out of Calgary somewhere, maybe an hour from Calgary?
Our east. Yeah, it's where
East.
Treaty 7 was signed along the Bow River.
Yeah. And you're part of a confederacy of Blackfoot nations. So how many are there?
You bet. There are 4 of us, actually. The Blackfoot Confederacy consists of Siksika, which is the side where we signed the treaty, and Kainai to the south of us, and Piikani, and the Apuskani Piikani, which is in Montana. So that's all the Blackfoot people, but we're also part of Treaty 7, which includes the Tsuut'ina and the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, Bearpaw, Chiniki, and Goodstoney.
Those are like different First Nations, though, right? They're, I understand Tsuut'ina is not Blackfoot or Dakota.
No, their Tsuut'ina is Dene. They have a big Blackfoot influence, but
I can imagine,
but they are Dene people.
Okay, okay. That's another story. We'll get
Oh
into
yeah,
that.
another podcast.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. They have an interesting history. We were actually there a couple of years ago in your area. I don't know if we went to Siksika, but we were doing an education podcast series for the Department of Education in Alberta.
Ah.
And but we got our funding got cut by the Alberta government when your new government came in. So amongst
Hey,
others, probably.
sorry to say that's no surprise.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, did any of your family go to residential school?
Oh, yes, absolutely. A long line. It's really quite interesting because Chief Olson was the one of the chiefs at the time when they first proposed the Indian residential school, and he was a frenemy of the Reverend Timms, which was an
Mm,
Anglican, who was the Anglican I don't minister at that time who started Olson Residential School. Even though I don't think Olson attended, he allowed his namesake to be a part of that, but unfortunately, it set sort of the stage for all his descendants to attend residential schools. So my grandparents, their parents, my father, all his family, my relatives, and then ultimately me.
yeah.
Yeah, the whole bunch of us were part of that
Wow.
legacy.
Yeah. Now, we've had different people say good things, some bad things about residential schools. What was your experience like? I mean, in a
Oh,
nutshell.
Oh, in a nutshell, yeah. Well, it's an interesting one and a complicated one.
Yeah.
My father, who attended residential school, actually ended up being sort of the first wave of indigenous people who, when the churches gave control over to the government started hiring indigenous people to be, I guess,
Supervisors?
yeah, supervisors within the
Yeah.
school. So my father ended up following a particular administrator to Ontario, where he met my mother.
Hmm.
I was a result of that meeting. And so really my impetus or my very beginnings began in residential school.
Yeah.
And then we went up north to Fort George, to Chisisibi, which was the Indian and Eskimo residential school. As an infant and a child, I was there. And then we ended up moving to Saskatchewan to the Gordons First Nation, and that's when I started day school.
Oh, really?
I basically started in nursery, kindergarten, grades 1, 2, 3 at Gordons, and then we moved to Lebret residential school, and I ended up doing half of grade four. No, yeah, grade four, half of grade four before we moved back to Siksika. My dad finally got a job with my nation as band administrator, tribal administrator, and that's when we moved back. And I can attest. It's very interesting. The history and the sense of trying to resolve. And my father and I had a few discussions, hard ones, about his history in the schools and ultimately mine.
Yeah.
But I would agree with many residential school survivors that it was not a good experience.
No.
I have shared in the past, the psychological, physical, and sexual abuses that happened to me in those schools. And it's one of those things that yeah, regardless if you were a day student or could go home at night, predators exist, and they certainly existed in those places. So
Yeah.
yeah, so for me, it really was sort of signaling this interesting history. But at the same time, that my experience was no different than so many.
Yeah. I have a couple of cousins that went to Gordon's
Oh
in
yeah.
Saskatchewan. Punichai is the name of the place.
Yep. Yep.
Both of them, they're older than me, and one was became a chief of our reserve in northern Manitoba, but he's since passed on, and the older brother is still alive, so they often talk about stories about their time in Punichai, so
Oh,
Gordon's,
well,
Gordon's, yeah,
it was one of the most notorious schools. A lot of abuse happened at that place.
okay, okay,
From so many angles. It was
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
very awful. Yeah.
okay. Well, let's switch gears here a little bit and tell us a bit about how your life started in the work of art as an artist.
You bet. Well, I've always, I obviously always thought that I was an artist, as a kid. And as I grew up, I was always doodling or drawing or, stuff. And then when I
Yeah,
became an adult, I, liked to visit art galleries and stuff like that. And it was quite interesting because I was in First Nation politics in the 90s. And during that time, I started to really think about, what do I want to be when I grow up? And it was,
yeah,
and so I decided, you know what, I'll take the plunge. I decided to apply to then the Alberta College of Art and Design, now Alberta University of the Arts,
yeah,
which I'm actually also now chair of.
yeah,
And I applied to that, and I did my undergraduate 4 years, with sort of a professional degree. And then I would move to Saskatchewan, to University of Saskatchewan, and did my master's there. So I guess that's my sort of professional creds as an artist, but it's really always been inherent, and it's something that I really love to do, and I just I
yeah.
it's a for me it's what in many ways keeps me going and saved me and causes me to have so many amazing experiences in my life.
Yeah. Sometimes when you like passionate about something, especially your work, it doesn't feel like work, right?
Oh, not at all. It's a pleasure to get up every day and think, oh, what am I going to create today?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Ayaya songs are about our histories. Ayaya is an Inuit-owned firm that tells our stories in many languages across Canada. They are experts in publishing children's books, usually in syllabics, and they do large multi-language projects like the reports of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Commission. If you need help getting your stories into classrooms or homes in Cree, Inuktitut, or other Indigenous languages, check them out at ayaya.ca. That's ayaya.ca. Ayaya is a proud sponsor of the Roots and Hoots podcast.
The buffalo is a prominent symbol in your artwork. One of your personas is named Buffalo Boy. The buffalo is featured in many of your paintings, sculptures, and your recent Canada Post stamp. Can you tell us a bit about the symbolism of the buffalo for you?
Oh, you bet. Inni and Blackfoot. But the buffalo means everything to me, very much like it means everything to my people. And I think all Plains people who relied on the bison for, sustenance, shelter, tools, you name it. The buffalo is everything, and even including within the Blackfoot culture, one of our societies is the Motogeeks, which is the Buffalo Women's Society, and like many First Nations tribal groups were matriarchal, and it was the Buffalo Women's Society who basically, directed us in many ways. And so spiritually, a big part of our lives. And so for me, when I started to sort of emerge as an artist, the symbol of the buffalo kept coming up for me, and it kept coming in my dreams and
Mhm.
my daydreams and all that sort of stuff. And so really, for me, it was really sort of looking at that history of the buffalo, not only what it meant to us, but also what happened to us after it was, after it was slaughtered, after it disappeared, and its effect on us. So for me, that's the root of the buffalo and its meaning in everything I do. But it was also interesting because Buffalo Boy really is a character parody of Buffalo Bill and his Wild West shows. So it really sort of started to sort of play with the colonial history, in particular Buffalo Bill, once being a buffalo hunter himself, an Indian fighter, and all this sort of stuff. So he was primed to, in a trickster way, to sort of look at and sort of play with that history. So for me, it really sort of is that amalgamation of those histories and sort of talking back to the colonial project. And so in Buffalo Boy performances, he's in some way or another always poking at the colonial beast and making fun of them, and in a humorous way, as we do as Indigenous
Mhm.
people. So for
Yeah.
me, using the metaphor, using the symbol of the buffalo as the strength, the resilience, in spite of almost being destroyed,
Yeah.
has come back, and today is a huge symbol of revival. And through the Buffalo treaties and stuff that
Yeah.
are going on, these are things that all that as an artist, I've been interested in and talked about and have created
Yeah.
work around. So means everything to me.
They're kind of like a parallel with indigenous people, right?
Oh yes.
Like they're very resilient, and they've almost been wiped out,
Yeah. Yep.
much like First Nations have been suffered and have had difficult times
Yeah.
in their existence. So, and the buffalo is pretty much the same way.
Oh,
How is life like now in Siksika with your connection with the buffalo? Do you still have buffalo in your community, or
yeah, we do actually. It's interesting. We don't have an official herd. Which I wish we did, and
yeah,
I hope it. I know tourism and all that sort of stuff in the modern days are sort of speaking about bringing back a herd. But I often get visitors and I take them on tours, and it was my last tour when I was gratefully surprised to see a whole herd of them on our east end of the reserve, and I think it was Todd Monroe, I believe, who is raising buffalo. So for me, it was really heartwarming to actually see the presence of those buffalo on the nation, and actually another family, the Big Snakes. They are raising two albino buffalo, the white buffaloes.
yeah,
So they're on our nation too, and I think they're very symbolic. I'm a big believer that we as Plains people and people who have a relationship with the bison, we need to bring them back into our community. They're our kin. They are
yeah.
inspiration in so many ways, and I think it's so important. In my early Buffalo Boy days, I created a manifesto that basically said, "Bring the buffalo back, and everywhere they should roam, and that we should get out of their way."
Sure.
And, there might be a few casualties, but on our side, but
I
I
like the
think
way you put that. Yeah,
so. I really believe very highly that it's so important for them to be around and
yeah,
for us to see them. I think
yeah,
that's the thing. We just got to see them and know that they're there.
yeah. It'd be kind of sad if they disappeared. It's much like the relationship between the caribou and the Inuit, right? And
Hmm.
or the
Oh
Cree and the
yes.
Moose. It's like if they're gone, like something's not going to work out properly for the
Yeah.
people. So yeah, so it's good that they're still around, and they're
Yeah.
still part of your culture.
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. I feel strongly in our relationship. Well, as we look back in our history, we created treaties with these animals, and
Yeah,
we have to honor our treaties with them. And
right.
part of that is good stewardship and taking
Yeah,
care.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were also part of a team that produced a national monument for Canada's mission to Afghanistan. Tell us how this came about, and did you travel to Afghanistan, and where is the monument located?
You bet. Actually, very well. I am my family, my father, and my on my mom's side, the grandparents. They've all been involved with the military in some capacity. I was a former able seaman with the Canadian Navy back in the day, but I also took part in a program called the Canadian Forces Artist Program, and I applied to that. And part of my application was that I was interested in going to Afghanistan. So they made that happen in 2010. I was embedded with the troops in Afghanistan, in Kandahar, and a forward operating base called Masamgar. And my intent at that time was really just to observe the soldiers in their daily lives and record that. But interestingly enough, by happenstance, I was paired off with an Indigenous soldier, Master Corporal Jamie Gilman, from the Gordon First Nation. Talk about coincidence. And he took care of me while I was there. And it kind of changed my focus to the history of Indigenous participation in the military, which is
Mhm.
an interesting one in the sense that, it's both harmonious and not. So I think that's an interesting history to look at. So yes, so I ended up being part of that program. And then as time went by, there was a call for the National Monument to Canada's mission in Afghanistan. And I formed a team or got together with some architects, or landscape architects and art managers, Lou Webb and MBTW Design. And together we applied for this project. And in the end, we got it.
Mhm.
And and part of my philosophy around it was based in medicine wheel teachings and the importance of healing. And so yeah, they went with it. And so over the last number of years, it's taken a bit of a process, but we've refined it. And this coming spring is going to finally break ground and hopefully be complete in the next couple of years. And
Okay.
it's located on Le Breton Flats
In Ottawa.
in Ottawa, which is part of the Algonquin Confederacy of People. So we've
Right.
worked with Kitigan-Zibi First Nation in a few aspects of the monument. And yeah, so it's right across from the Canadian War Museum. So it's just located in an amazing place, and it's been an incredible process to undertake.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your art and who inspired your art and what you do today. Like who was your biggest inspiration?
Biggest inspiration, gosh, there are so many. Of course, Norval Morrisseau was a huge influence as a painter, and his style, the woodland style, is one that's just so apparent and so beautiful and so vibrant. And I can recall as a kid encountering it different times, and of course, the colors appealed to me, and it was very exciting. And also,
Yeah.
being born in Northern Ontario, that same experience around Gitchigumi, Lake Superior,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the forests and the Canadian Shield. So that was something that really sort of inspirational. So obviously Norval Morrisseau, but I also was dear friends with Alex Jambier, who I have to say he is prolific art maker who would put all us young artists to shame.
Yeah.
He was just such an amazing painter
Yeah.
and an incredible work ethic, and in modern times too, people like Rebecca Belmore, performance
Mhm.
artist, and her work, and getting to know her. It's so funny because you think of these people, and like, yeah, if you haven't met them and you get all, kind of fanboying, and then you finally meet them and they become your friends, and it's so
Yeah.
amazing, and her work is so poignant and incredible. And
Yeah.
if we look through art history, I've even had the old Michelangelos and stuff of the world,
Yeah.
or other artists who I've all think
Mhm.
amazingly, and a whole string of contemporary artists. But I
Yeah.
think those folks are
Yeah.
are good.
The top ones, eh? Yeah.
Yeah,
There's yeah, I'm sure you know this. There's so many indigenous artists out there now.
hmm
I think people like Norval Morrisseau inspired a whole generation of artists to emerge.
yeah,
And I think it's a very, very, it's something that's a gift that's carried, within the First Nations people. They seem to have, some of them, not all, I mean, they have different gifts, right? Everybody has a
yeah.
different gift. And there's a lot of emerging artists. But I wanted to ask you, but where was Norval Morrisseau from?
He was from just outside of Thunder Bay, to Sandy Lake, I think it was Sandy Lake, and
Okay,
yeah, so he was his whole life was spent in and around Thunder Bay. That's sort of his sort of main base.
right. Okay, so that's the woodland thing, the theme that
Yes,
he got. Okay,
yeah,
yeah,
no, he's considered the grandfather or the creator of the woodland style,
yeah,
woodland school, I should say.
woodland school. Now, is there a with all the artists in Canada, maybe America too, United States, but in Canada, is there like an artist association? Like there's so many of you guys.
No. There's a curatorial, First Nations curatorial collective, but I do not believe there's been different attempts to sort of make that happen. But
Yeah,
yeah, Canada's a big place, and
yeah,
it's really hard to get, it's like herding cats. To get artists together is always a bit of a challenge.
yeah.
But nonetheless, through modern communication, we're all keep track of each other and
That's right. Yeah,
watch what each other's doing, and support each other, and and critique each other when necessary. And I
yeah,
think it's yeah. But mind you, it's been a while since there's been a big Indigenous artists gathering. So
yeah.
that's something we need to do.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
This episode is brought to you by PCL. PCL is a group of independent construction companies that operates throughout Canada, the United States, the Caribbean, and Australia. As one of the largest contracting organizations in North America, PCL completes more than $11 billion in work annually, building projects that shape communities. The company's 100% employee ownership model fuels a culture of commitment for clients in the buildings, civil infrastructure, heavy industrial, and solar market. PCL's teams are proud to build with and learn from Indigenous communities in a number of places in this land. Learn more and watch PCL build at PCL.com.
Okay, your latest project, Forged, is a six-part podcast series that focuses on one of the largest art frauds in the world. I think you're talking about Norval Morrisseau's art collection, and tell us more about this.
Absolutely. Well, it was a great pleasure to be asked to take part in this project, and it didn't take me long to say yes, for many reasons. But you take a look at Norval Morrisseau's life, and he was such a, you think of like his art, a colorful character.
Yeah.
Had so many interesting things occur for him in so many different ways.
Did you ever meet
But
him?
very briefly, when he
Yeah,
had his show at the National Gallery, and that was the time when his health was declining. So, you could not really have a conversation per se, but I was in his presence,
yeah,
and that
okay,
and that was amazing.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, he, and really, his story, you've in our day and age, you hear so many sort of variations and rumors and this and that. So we really want to take, a factual dive into that history and take a look at what's happened and help people understand sort of the context and the sort of trajectory of the story, which is still going on. There are still court cases going on, but really sort of reveal the facts as to what occurred, and a cautionary tale, as Gerald McMaster explained, to help us understand, not only the context of how it happened and the ways it happened, but also hopefully especially as artists, be it Indigenous or not, that we have to keep an eye out for these things and hopefully never not be taken advantage of. So I think for the process and just working with an amazing team at the CBC, the Indigenous office and such, and the fact checking and all that sort of stuff was really a very interesting process to do. I'm not it was funny. I was given the title broadcaster the other day, and I had to giggle because I've never really been a broadcaster. But nonetheless, sort of taking on the host position
yeah,
was a very wonderful and a good learning experience too. Just
yeah,
understanding.
yeah,
We did so many takes, so many interviews. Sadly, not all the interviews get put into it, but it's certainly a lot of research. And
yeah,
for me, it really helped me understand this particular story, and hopefully through the podcast, people will get a better idea of
yeah.
what is happening, and what we need to keep an eye on for the future.
Without divulging too much about Forged and the six-part series, Forged, I guess, is based on the people misrepresenting the art or copying Norval Morrisseau's art. Is that what it's all about?
Yeah, exactly. There were forgery rings, as one individual serving time for. Interestingly, not because of the forgeries themselves, but of the abuse that he inflicted on the young, in particular, men who were doing the forgeries for him. So, I think that, yes, it really looks at the scope of how many forgeries were made, and it's in the thousands
Mhm.
of
Really?
paintings that were forged. Oh, yes,
Wow.
that ended up being sold across the country and, even overseas. We don't even know how many are overseas, but
Yeah,
so this really sort of opens the door, I think, for people to sort of look, if they bought a Norval Morrisseau in the 70s or 80s and maybe even today, they should take a look at them
yeah.
and just,
So what would he do? These guys would copy his work or and make it. Would it be exact replicas of the work or originals?
Exactly that. They wouldn't necessarily copy ones that had already been done by Norva, so but they would extrapolate and make their own versions of
Okay.
what they thought Norval's work was. But
Yeah.
even very sort of basic stuff like put this color here, put that color there. So they had it mapped out, and they would just produce canvas after canvas after canvas,
Well,
and then take his signature and copy his signature. That's the big part, is they would copy his
yeah.
nurture on these paintings. And,
That's the crime right there, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
forgery. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. You received several awards, including the Governor General's Award and the Queen Elizabeth II Golden Jubilee Medal. Of all the medals you've received, and I'm sure you received others as well, is there one that stands out the most in your mind that means most to you?
Absolutely. The one that's right behind me here. And it's the Blackfoot Art Awards 1990. And this award was given to me by my people,
Wow.
the
Yes.
Blackfoot. And,
Yeah.
so for me, that was an amazing gift that my people gave to me, in the sense of, well, I think we all, in some point of our, need some sort of validation for
Sure.
the things we do.
Yeah.
And to receive it from your own people is such a privilege and such an honor. And so for me, I just really value that one. That's not to say that I don't value the others. It's always really lovely to
Yeah.
be recognized, and by the Queen, even though she can be or was problematic. I speak to her in the past tense, but you honor those treaties. you know
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
in the end, as human beings, as Indigenous people, we've come a long way. And
Yeah.
it's important, because we're in this boat together, and we got to sort of figure out how to
Yeah.
set the sail right.
Yeah. And there's a certain amount of respect there too, right? So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think of right now with our Governor General, who being the person she is, and the honor that,
yeah. Yeah.
giving those awards, you know,
Hmm. Yeah.
it's good. It's
And she
good.
knows a lot of the people that she's giving awards to.
Yeah,
She's her like she's Inuit. She speaks the
yeah,
language, she did. And I know that my wife got an award too from there.
yeah,
And she's given out so many awards to people that she knows, and
yeah.
people
Oh,
that
it's
she's
wonderful.
encountered in her life, and that's great to see. It's always good to see uh, somebody receive an award from people that actually know them. You know what I mean? That
Uh,
means more to a person, I think.
Absolutely, I would agree with that. That's it's
Yeah.
it's it's a wonderful thing.
Our last question is about reconciliation, and that's a buzzword that's been going around Canada, for the last few years. What's your thoughts on this when you hear reconciliation? What comes to mind for you?
Oh, well, one thing, I think there's still a lot of work to do. But most recently, again, I was honored in the most wonderful way, put a team together, and we were successful in getting the Indian Residential School Memorial in Calgary. So this would be a memorial that honors the history of the survivors. And
Hmm.
it's an amazing place, the confluence, former Fort Calgary and Calgary, in the city of Calgary. Uh, but so that was a great honor, and so in many ways, the calls to action through art is being realized. As I said earlier, I think we still, there's a lot of work to do until all those calls to action are actually realized in a good way. Uh, Obviously there's work to do. I still think there are a lot of Canadians who still don't necessarily understand the history
Yeah.
or want to understand it, and we
Hmm.
certainly know that politics is an ever shifting animal, and
Yeah.
that it depends on who's in power at the time, where relationships are good or bad. And I think until there comes a time when Canadians really truly take this to heart, and sort of act in good ways and act in good faith, treat everybody well. In the
Mhm.
end, I don't think we'll have got there yet. And I
Yeah.
think that a little land back wouldn't hurt either.
A lot. Never mind a
a
little.
lot of land back. So I think that I think there's decolonization is also a buzzword, but it's an important word
Yeah.
because we truly have to change the way we think
Right.
on so many levels. And as we know that it's sometimes seems impossible, but you know what? There are a lot of people out there doing good work, and we can't lose sight of that.
That's right.
And I
Yeah.
think that that's so important. I just have to listen to Murray Sinclair in many of the amazing speeches he made, and that gives hope, that gives inspiration. That
Yeah.
in spite of it all, there's forgiveness, there's understanding, and that there's also you're not, as they say, we're not only survivors, we're thrivers. We
Yeah.
can thrive, thrive and share our knowledge for
Yeah.
to make it better for us all. And I believe in that, and that's what sort of keeps me going, and the art keeps me going, and it's something that I've been very privileged and honored to be a part of.
Well said. Well said. Thank you, Adrian, for taking the time to do this with us.
Oh, Gordon, really pleasure. Thank you.
Quite an awesome background you have,
Mhm.
and you're a real inspiration. And so glad that you're able to do this for us. And I want to thank you on behalf of Legacy Hope Foundation for taking the time to talk to us
Oh,
today.
oh, what an honor. Thank you again.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, for this opportunity.
Roots and Hoots is a podcast project produced by the Legacy of Hope Foundation. For episode show notes, please visit the podcast description and make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. For more information about the work we do, please visit legacyofhope.ca. And now, a word from our sponsor. Ayaya songs are about our histories. Ayaya is an Inuit-owned firm that tells our stories in many languages across Canada. They are experts in publishing children's books, usually in syllabics, and they do large multi-language projects like the reports of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Commission. If you need help getting your stories into classrooms or homes in Cree, Inuktitut, or other Indigenous languages, check them out at ayaya.ca. That's ayaya.ca. Ayaya is a proud sponsor of the Roots and Hoots podcast.